Oh, just a second.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the FPL Bangers Show. My name is Siva. I'm joined once again by Sam. And Sam, normally all these pods that come back after a long break, they ask, what did you do over the summer, and how do you feel about FPL? Are you disillusioned with the game? Obviously, we're not, Sam, because we're still here. We're recording this for the love
Yeah,
of the game.
we love the game. This will be our 11th year? Right?
I have lost count, but it's more than 10. That much I can tell. I think I started in 2011, 2012. Yeah, I think 12 years now. And do you ever spend any time, like I see a lot of people spending preseason and even now complaining about pricing and the fact that there's no rule changes, no new chips. How does that bother you, affect you? Do you really even care?
No, I mean you just gotta play the game. It will be nice. Some changes will be nice, but over the years, I mean, like we said earlier, we've been playing a long time, and I think we are kind of used to seeing changes, few and far between, right?
Yeah, I mean, don't want to
The
sound
only
old.
major change, I think, the change. Remember, we used to have the all-out attack chip.
The most useless
Good
chip
times.
ever. So for those who didn't know, right, all out attack was basically it allowed you to play, what was it, 2-5-3, two.
Yeah, you can sacrifice one defender for another attacker, basically, in your formation.
Because
Useless.
the
No
most
one uses it.
the most
And
useless chip.
it never works when you use it. Like suddenly your defender will haul on the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not to sound old, but everybody complaining about chips now. Back in my day, right, we didn't have no triple captain, no second wild card, none of that. You had wildcard windows, right? You had one wildcard, you had to play it between like Jan 1st and Jan 30.
Yeah, during the January transfer window, the winter transfer window.
Made no sense. But hey, times change, we change. And enough of small chat, right? Let's get into it. The main topic this week, Sam, Gabriel Jesus. It's a good thing we recorded today, because if we recorded this yesterday, everything we discussed would probably be out of date. But last night, Gabriel Jesus picks up an injury. Arteta says he's out for a few weeks. No definitive timeline. And so immediately this throws up questions, because I think Jesus was in most template squads, but now he's out. And this immediately raises questions. Do you still go in with your Arsenal triple up? Do you go for Odegaard or Martinelli? Assuming you have an Arsenal defender plus Saka, do you start considering Kai Havertz, maybe Eddie Nketiah, who was really popular last season? So, or do you just go straight to Ollie Watkins? We all big fans of Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, I am.
So
I am.
Hey, I respect Ollie Watkins. I think you were higher on him, earlier last season than most people were. He's 8 mil this season, so he feels expensive for a so-called non-Champions League side, but nailed, really good stats. But before we get into Watkins and Jesus replacements, I thought I'd talk to you, Sam, about who's your Arsenal replacement of choice. Are you looking at Odegaard or Martinelli instead of
I'm the wrong person to ask Siva, because I never had Gabriel Jesus in any of my drafts. It's a subpar finisher, underperforms his XG every year. So I'm the wrong person to ask. My current Arsenal pick is Saka, right? I went a long period in my draft having Martinelli over Saka, and then I caved to the Martinelli might not be nailed train that's going on. So I swapped it out for Saka, and no more headaches then. Saka's gonna play every week. Do you need a second Arsenal attacker?
Yes.
Elaborate, Siva.
I mean, Arsenal play Forest, Palace, and Fulham in the first three. This is a Forest side that lost 5-0 yesterday. They've lost, I think, all of their preseason fixtures so far. Still haven't.
So
you're not helping your case. And Forest still haven't signed their keeper, right? They still haven't signed Dean Henderson, so they're still playing Ethan Horvath, who is USA's, I want to say, second choice, but he might even be second choice keeper, right ahead of behind Turner.
I heard they might be signing Turner, USA's first choice keeper,
which is not much of an improvement given that he's going to be Arsenal's third choice keeper once we sign David Raya. But either way, Forest have had really awful preseason. Arsenal playing them at home. Look, logically, right? Arsenal against Forest at home, you back Arsenal. It's probably going to be a 5-0 again. then they play Palace and they play Fulham. Fulham still haven't. João Palhinha is probably going to be out for that game because he's been injured the whole of preseason. So yeah, I think for the second best team in the league, you need 3 Arsenal players and you need 2 Arsenal attackers for me. And but I'll come back to your point about whether you need it or not once we look at fixture difficulties. Assuming, Sam, for the normal crowd, for the rest of the people listening to this, the majority of whom will have 3 Arsenal players, just sort of analyzing the effect that this happened, because this happened last season. Jesus missed 14 league games, and so we got to see how Arsenal looked like without him. And in those games, as you can see, for those of you who are listening, you can check out the YouTube. We've got sort of the stats from that time. There were 14 games where Jesus didn't start. Martinelli scored 8, Saka scored 8 and assisted 4. Odegaard had 4 goals and 4 assists. The key difference between Odegaard and Martinelli here is that Odegaard played almost every minute of those games, whereas Martinelli, if you recall, had a big barren spell where he went like 6 or 7 games, didn't score anything, didn't assist anything, got dropped, came back into the side as a sub against Villa. If you remember,
I remember
big
this.
goal.
We all sold him from our teams when he got dropped, and then he came back the next week and went on like a bender, like scoring multiple goals every game. I remember this.
Exactly. Yep. He scored 6 in 6 basically when he came on as a sub against Villa. That's the one where he scores that empty net. He's celebrating before he's got it in, and then after that he scores 5 and 5 after that. Interestingly, and this isn't a direct correlation, but most of Martinelli's recovery run coincides when Trossard started playing up front as opposed to Nketiah.
I remember reading and also watching that Nketiah is kind of a penalty box kind of forward. So he's blocking the space that Martinelli usually runs into, whereas Trossard is much better on the link up, brings the best out of Martinelli. Same with Gabriel Jesus, I guess, similar kind of players in a way.
Yeah, and I think that actually makes a lot of sense. A lot of people will tell you this is small sample size, you can't draw conclusions, but look, you've got to work with what you have, right? So we have this data. We don't have much more than it. I think what you said makes sense. And even if you watch the games, you can see, right, Jesus has always been the kind of guy who will come out, draw people into play, and try and facilitate. That's what he did at City. That's why he worked so well there, because they've got all these midfielders who then crash the box. Similar to Martinelli and Trossard, I think that same sort of relationship works. And my feeling from preseason is Trossard's been so good that Arteta, regardless of Nketiah's goal against Monaco yesterday, I think Trossard starts Game Week 1 alongside Martinelli. I think it would be harsh on Trossard, who has been so good, to not give him that opportunity. And like you say, so much more flexibility against a low block. People can come, go forward, back and forth. I just think he starts.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? We don't know for sure. We think he might start, but we literally have no concrete evidence that he will. Perhaps the Community Shield game will. No, not Community Shield. Are you playing the Community Shield? Yeah, you are, right? Okay.
What do you mean? How we play? Of course.
I started doubting myself. Yeah, perhaps Community Shield will give us a better idea. But even then, what I don't like about this whole situation, and it's kind of the same as a few other teams, is that one bad game from Trossard, Nketiah could come in the next game. I don't really like starting the season with so much uncertainty in my players.
Yeah. And one bad game for Martinelli, then he ends up getting benched, and Trossard plays in that position, and Nketiah plays up top. That could happen. I agree.
Yeah. But if I had to choose a second Arsenal attacker, I would go for Martinelli.
Okay, so interesting you say that, because since you've just told me that you're not happy with minutes and nobody wants to start the season with guys who they're not sure will play, why not go for Martin Odegaard? Because he's nailed. And what I find surprising is Odegaard's not been a popular pick amongst so-called Twitter managers, right? But he's got, I think, 20% plus ownership. He's got more points than all these other midfielders. He's got 212 points, more than Saka, more than Martinelli, more than most people, and yet he's not popular. I think everybody seems to think he just sort of fluked that because he scores lots of bangers. But I mean, that's kind of what Odegaard does, right? He finds space. He's a good long distance shooter, and unlike Martinelli, he's nailed. He's the captain. In this entire run where Jesus wasn't playing, Martinelli was only subbed off once before the 80th minute mark. And I think that was like 77 minutes. So he's always good for 90 minutes. And this is now a season where, I don't know if you've seen the news, but the Premier League say they will adopt the World Cup rules on injury time. So you will start to see sort of, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, exactly. Like we saw at the World Cup. And in that scenario, somebody like Martinelli, who's going to be prone to early subs, even if he's good, just because he's an impact kind of player, somebody who uses up a lot of energy, whereas Odegaard can hang back, maybe score a few more late goals.
What is your opinion of Odegaard starting alongside Havertz? Because I haven't watched many preseason games, but I have read some analysis here and there, and it seems Havertz is the one making a lot of late runs into the box and things like that. Do you think that will affect Odegaard's goal scoring at least? Since Havertz is the one making the runs, he's the one staying back. Maybe more assist to the assister kind of role, perhaps deeper than last season. And I personally have a bit of concern because I know Odegaard plays on the right, kind of hangs in that right half space, left-footed. But so is Havertz. Havertz have been playing on the left for you guys in preseason, but I don't know if the tendency will start to come back. And I'm not sure how well they'll work together actually, because they both naturally occupy the same position.
It's interesting you mentioned Havertz, because I feel like a lot of people have just are bringing a lot of FPL baggage with Havertz. I think a lot of people, Havertz only has like 5% ownership, and I looked at the website today and I found that surprising. Like even casuals have been burnt so many times by Havertz at Chelsea. They're just like, I'm never going near this man again. But let's talk about Havertz for a bit, right? So he's 7.5 mil. So he's cheaper than all these other guys we're talking about. Okay, we've all got a lot of cash, but still, wherever you can save, it doesn't hurt. I would suggest he's more nailed than Martinelli, simply because we're not spending 65 million, at least not anymore, Nicolas Pepe aside. We're not spending this kind of money on a bench player. Like the fact that he didn't start against Monaco, and you look at the lineup, it was mostly guys who haven't been playing that much. So Smith Rowe, Trossard, Martinelli, for example, Saka didn't play. I feel like Havertz is going to be sort of Arteta's main man in that position to replace Xhaka. And so, to your question, does he start taking up the same spaces as Odegaard? I think another concern everybody has about Havertz is he going to be too defensive now? Is he going to have all the responsibilities that Xhaka had? Does he have to track back? Does that mean he's not basically a good midfielder for FPL? And I think there's some misconceptions that need to be cleared up here. So, and I also just assumed, as a casual fan, although I'm an Arsenal fan, I just assumed, Xhaka, defensive midfielder. So why are we signing Havertz, presumably a box-to-box / striker at times for Chelsea, to replace Xhaka? But once you start looking at positions and tackles, Xhaka last year was pretty useless defensively. Like his tackling numbers are as bad as Havertz at Leverkusen. And Havertz obviously wasn't playing DM at Leverkusen. Like you can just look at his tackles here. They're less than guys like De Bruyne has more tackles than Xhaka and Havertz, which makes no sense, right? And you can see the drop. So Xhaka, before the role change, much higher rate of tackles, playing like a DM, albeit a bad one, but last season not at all. And if you start to look at proportions of touches in the final third, and you'll see here that Xhaka's proportion of touches in the final third is really high, like it's close to like 40%. It's not that far behind Odegaard, which kind of makes sense because he's arriving late in the box. It's higher than somebody like Gundo. We all love Gundo. We all know how good Gundo is. Different teams, but still higher than guys like Partey and Rodri and so on. And it's similar to where Havertz was at Leverkusen. And finally, underlying stats. And this is where Xhaka was considered a fluky pick last year because he was pretty cheap and, none of us own Xhaka, but he kept scoring 7 goals, 7 assists. Those are pretty decent numbers, but his XG was pretty low. Whereas Havertz, even at Leverkusen, always had very good stats, very good underlyings, and he's usually double digits, for both goals and assists. So long story short, and this is the last thing, I just noticed this. I realized that Xhaka and Havertz are occupying the same spaces. So this is the last goal that, the last match of the season, Xhaka scores a header from, left side of the box. He's crashing in late. Havertz did the exact same thing twice in the preseason. He did it once against the MLS team. Okay, it's an MLS team, but he also did it against Barcelona. Long story short, I think Kai Havertz is like viable pick this season, and I think more people should be looking at him.
Put your money where your mouth is, Siva. Start with Start with Havertz.
I think I might. I genuinely think I might. And I think here's why it's not that big a risk. Okay, unlike you, Sam, most people are going to have 3 Arsenal players. So your third Arsenal player now is, I think, when it was Jesus, I was scared because 30. Okay, you hate ownership, but 30% ownership, I think Jesus had really high effective ownership. If he scores, you're in pain. But now that it's been split up a bit, some people will go Martinelli, some people go Odegaard. I feel like the risk factor is less. Like, you can afford to try Havertz for the first few weeks. I feel like I said, I think he's got security of starts because just given the the price we paid for him, I think there is a non-zero chance that he's on pens.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Saka's
not
missed his last
really good.
2.
Yeah.
Havertz has got 16 of 17 pens. Like, I feel like if you're Arteta, I mean, if I know that, surely Arteta knows that. So I'm sure that's in his mind. And he took a penalty yesterday against Monaco. He scored all our pens. Saka was on the pitch. And I would say Havertz is, without being biased, the best pen because he fainted and smashed it top bins. I feel like there's very low risk here. He's 7.5 mil, so you can go down to a 6.5 if it doesn't work out. You go down to Mbomo, Mitoma, Musa Diaby, you go up to, Martinelli or Odegaard if you have to. What do you think?
I think it's viable. Perhaps not the best pick, but a viable pick. The thing about having scoring from late runs in the box and stuff like that, right? Like how Xhaka does. Gundo's maybe an exception because of how City set up, but the goals, yes, they will score, but maybe not as often as you want from a fantasy asset. In terms of value, yeah, he's cheap, so it's good. But at the start of the season, when we have a lot of opportunity to tinker with your teams, I would rather find that extra million to get Martinelli than start with Havertz. And using the same logic, if Havertz start really banging, you can always sell and go down, right?
True.
But really everything team dependent. Yeah. What about Trossard? Would you
What do you mean team
start with
dependent?
Trossard? No, I mean like team dependent. So for example, for me, I have Salah. Spoiler alert for the
Spoiler
draft at the end, but I do. So that takes up one of my slots, and so I can't really fit another Arsenal mid in my team right now. Later we'll go on to the draft. So that's what I mean by team dependent. So most people maybe, like you say, will try to start with multiple Arsenal attackers. For me, I'm happy to just have Saka and then get people from other teams. So, yeah.
Yeah, but to your point, right, Trossard, why isn't Trossard a viable pick? I think Trossard will do really well this season. He did really well for Sprechers last season. Like, you remember that performance against Fulham, right? I think it was 3 assists. I think
yeah,
which was amazing.
And then he got dropped like the next game or something like that.
I think the issue with Trossard is similar to Martinelli and similar to Nketiah. They might be the guy who is the first sub off. Like, you might see him come off a lot on 60 minutes, or you might see him come on a lot on 60 minutes. And Trossard is 7 mil. Like, Havertz is 7.5, Martinelli is 8, Odegaard's 8.5. I think all things being equal, I would just go up. I mean, I appreciate Havertz is a risky pick. So, you want the logical safe pick. You just pay 8.5. Odegaard plays. And ultimately, you're on the pitch. You're more likely to get points.
And I guess my argument is that Havertz is a risky pick, but he doesn't necessarily have a very high ceiling as well. If you're going for a risky pick at this point of the season when you're starting off, I would go for someone, as high a ceiling as you can. Maybe Foden or something like that, who also has question marks over their minutes, but when he does play, definitely a higher ceiling compared to Havertz. Another question though, Siva, there is also Partey in your team, right? And I heard he played really well in the previous game. So, do you think there's a chance that you play Partey, Rice, and Odegaard instead if playing Havertz there makes your team too defensively unsound?
See, that's the logical, I think, conclusion when Havertz was first signed. I think a lot of people, even I, why are we signing this guy? Where are we going to play him? But my feeling is that we are prepared to give up that sort of defensive stability in the search for more goals. I think that must be the only logical conclusion. Maybe part of it is because, Partey's got his issues, right? And so maybe Partey is not going to be here forever. And maybe Rice will be the holding midfielder. But I do think there's a sort of we are prepared to sort of sacrifice that number of defenders to have that many attackers to break teams down and to score goals. I just think that is part of the plan. That's the only logical reason. Like, we can't, I mean, maybe I'm being very kind to Arteta, but we can't possibly have signed a 100 million holding midfielder and a 65 million guy who we're going to play as a 8, I guess, as a Xhaka replacement, and then not play him each week and just play Partey and Rice. I think, if anything, you're probably going to see Partey and Rice in the harder games, and we don't have that many hard games to start off. Like, you might see them against City, for example, play 2 holding midfielders, but we're playing Forest in Game Week 1.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, but appreciate it's not a slam dunk pick, and if it were a slam dunk pick, everyone would be on it. So there's a risk for a reason. Let's come back to attackers, because we were talking about Jesus, because that's the sort of main focus. And I think when the Jesus injury news came out, everybody just said, okay, we're getting Nkunku, we go on. Again, you're probably, I feel you have different feelings about Nkunku, and given
he's never been any of my drafts, and I've never considered. So I have a philosophy to start the season in which, to avoid any new signings, because they may need a time of adjustment and things like that. Not only to start, and even if they were trusted to start, a few bad performances and the coach can easily be pressured into the whole, he's taking time to adapt to the Premier League. Maybe we'll play someone else first. It's very possible for new signings. So I want people who are proper nailed. I know they're going to start. And if I'm going to take a risk, I would only do it for maybe 1 or 2 players. But definitely no new signings. So yeah, it's just, I'm happy he's on my watch list. I was going to monitor, although, as I think most of you know, he's injured right now. But yeah, on my watch list, but wasn't in my draft.
Fair. I mean, I can't think of anybody who's come from the Bundesliga, smashed goal scoring records there, won play of the seasons, and then come here and done well. Like, I can't think of anybody.
Any second strikers who came to the Premier League, joined Chelsea, and played up, alone, up top as a striker, with all the expectations on the world on him, and then flopped.
I can think of a few, but that's a different.
Although
Chelsea
I think Poch is a bit smart. I don't think he, we didn't even see in preseason, he was not intending to play Nkunku as a lone striker. So that's a step forward for Chelsea. Unfortunately, all this discussion, all the drafts, all the tinkering with Nkunku has gone to waste because he won't start the season now.
Well, we don't know. And he might, right? So Poch didn't give any confirmation, as you can see on the screen, right? He said doctors are checking. We hope it's okay, but we'll see. So we'll probably have a closer idea, as we get to Game Week 1. But let's assume we don't. And so that's why, as you can see on the screen, this very professionally edited photo of Ollie Watkins. I like
Watkins.
After all failures, we've been brought back to Watkins. And much like Thanos, I think Watkins has often failed to live up to the hype, but he did really well at the end of last season. So let's look at projected goals for this season. Now, this is a table from Rob TFPL. You can find him on Twitter. We did retweet it a few days ago. This is before the Jesus injury news, but nevertheless, I think it's relevant because projected goals by the bookies, you can see first is Haaland, second Kane, probably heading to Bayern, Salah, Rashford, and then it's Watkins. Same number of projected goals as Rashford. And that doesn't seem very unfair, right? He's on pens. They haven't signed another forward at Villa. They've signed Musa Diaby, but he's probably a second striker kind of player.
Yeah.
Ollie Watkins in your draft, Sam.
I wish I could. I don't have the money right now. And there's a debate I have in my team, which maybe we can get on towards the end. But basically, right now, I would love to have Watkins. I just can't afford him because of my other players.
Let's talk about Salah then. Since Salah is clearly affecting your draft, and I think that sort of hampers your ability. Every player I mentioned that seems to be popularly owned, you don't have. So let's talk about Salah, and maybe let's just jump ahead to your draft, Sam. Oh, we're sort of giving away our very well taken photos. Okay, so Sam's draft, right? Let's read it out. Flecken of Brentford.
To be
Chilwell.
confirmed, definitely. Flecken is a TVC.
Yeah, okay. So you're 4.5 keeper. Then Chilwell, Mark Gahey, Botman, Rashford, Saka, Eze, Salah, Mbomo, Julian Alvarez, and Haaland with Matty Cash on the bench, and the rest are all fodder. So let's talk about Salah, right? Your setup. You've got 2 6.5 mids, Rashford, Saka, and Salah. You're comfortable with this, not having, I would say, one or
I
two?
will. Can you believe it? Maybe you will believe it, Siva.
I
But
actually don't. No.
Salah has been ever constant. The only player in my entire draft that was there since the start, since game week 1. I mean, since the very first draft I made. Out of
Why?
everyone in this list, which includes Haaland. So I actually started my first draft thinking I could try going no Haaland this year.
See, that I can believe because it's you, right? I said that I can buy. Why do you have Salah? Sell it to me because I feel like he
Salah in game
widely.
week 1, come on, man. I think if I know it's he scored 6 um, years in a row, game week 1. All double-digit horse except 1 year he got a measly 8 points
Yeah, but
with
he's playing
just a
Chelsea, man.
single
He's not playing
goal.
Leeds.
It doesn't matter. So I don't know, maybe it's loyalty, it's familiarity, it's safe. Salah is, to me, the safest pick you can make in game week 1. He's playing a Chelsea that is, new coach, new players, new team of inexperienced players, if you can hold it against them. Like, I think Reece James is probably their most senior. Sterling is their most senior player. The oldest player in the squad is like barely 30, I think. All that aside, I will always put my money on Salah, especially in the early game weeks. I remember reading an article about it last year. I don't have it right now, but it's to do with his fitness. Like, players take time to come back, from preseason, to build up their fitness. Salah always comes back in perfect fitness, and as you know, Siva, the earlier weeks defenses are always a mess. They usually don't keep many clean sheets, and then after a few games they get to work it out, and the team structure becomes more solid. And Salah's the type of player who always takes advantage of this kind of things. So he tends to start strong. I'm putting my money on Salah. I'm going to captain him. I know we're really jumping ahead, right? But I'm going to captain Salah game week 1. That's how much faith I have in Salah. So he's a non-negotiable in my team. He's been there since the start. He's not leaving my draft.
Okay. I can go along. I had Salah in some drafts. I can go along with the idea that he's start off strong. I can go along with the fact that he's a fitness monster. I think he won like Liverpool's fitness test. Now that Henderson has left, he's like the most fit person there in their running tests and so on. I can buy all that. But you're captaining him ahead of, and this is why most people don't have him because they're not going to captain him. How do you justify captaining him ahead of Haaland against Burnley, guaranteed to start game week 1, promoted team, who Man City beat 6-0 back in March?
March is a long time ago. My argument is that Pep's teams always start slow.
Start slow. Oh, God. Wait.
And towards the end of the season last year, Haaland was not scoring as much as you would expect him to. He was still scoring. I'm not going to say he didn't score, but maybe not as much as you expect him to. Not as much to warrant him being a perma cap every single fixture.
Started pretty strongly last season, mate. I recall 2 goals being scored against West
No,
Ham, and
I'm
a
talking
lot
about
of
the
people.
end. Talking about the end of the season.
Oh, so now we're talking about the end of the season. So it's Salah, we're talking about the start of the season, but Salah, we're talking about the end of the season.
I mean, Salah ended strong. Started
Yes.
strong, ended strong. The middle part was a bit, but that was whole Liverpool as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Haaland started strong and tapered off towards the end. Now, you could argue that was partly due to minutes. He was rested a lot, so maybe the rhythm not quite there for the Champions League and things like that. But he really didn't score as much as you recall. When he did score, though, if I remember, he had big hauls, but just not as prolific as he was earlier, or start and middle of the season, I guess. The first 2/3 of the season. But yeah.
Let's unpack.
It's just one game week, man. I can take a Salah captaincy in game week 1, maybe game week 2. Everyone's trying to captain on game week 2.
I'm so pleased that we
I'm
do
not
videos.
saying I'm not having Haaland, That's a bit too much. I wish I could, Siva. You have no idea how much I wish Kane would stay so that I can experiment with a Haaland-less draft and put Kane in instead.
I just think some people don't like points. Like Erling Haaland's the best striker we've seen in the Premier League since Thierry Henry. Like just plug and play. Like this is the man that forced FPL to bump him up to 14 mil. Sorry, and I've seen a couple. Surprisingly, Sam, you're not a very sort of guy who follows models and stuff. But a lot of the analytical people yesterday when their review model just dropped out, FPL review, a lot of them had drafts without Haaland, and they're sort of getting excited about it. Oh, the data source, maybe we don't need Haaland, And I'm surprised to see you fall in there. But okay, let's park all that, because the point is you do have Haaland and Salah in your draft. Let's unpack the sacrifices you needed to make to get to Salah. So you've got two 4.5 defenders with another one on the bench. So you got Mark Gahey and Sven Botman. And a 4.5 keeper. I think that's fair because there are good 4.5 keepers. You've got Johnston, you've got Steele, you've got options.
Okay.
And
Let me explain through them. So for keepers, I will always have a 4.5 keeper till the day I die. They will always be the best options value for goalkeepers in FPL, despite Onana being 5.0. Yes, there was that one season where De Gea was worth it. Do you remember that? Because he was getting save points, he was getting bonus points and clean sheet points.
How times
but
change.
Rare. That it only happened once. That's the only time I can think of in 10 years of playing FPL. And usually paying more for a keeper never works out,
Actually, let's talk about the Onana pick for a sec, because you're a United fan, right? Like, Onana seems like a very comfortable pick because you know who he is. Like, everybody knows there's hype about him. Everyone sees the YouTube comms and stuff. But my feeling is he's just not going to get that many save points. Like, he's going to end up, conceding random goals here and there.
Yeah. I completely agree. He won't get save point. I think what people is jumping on is the fact that he's cheap
got swag.
at 5.0, 1. 2 bonus points. They expect more bonus from passing. I don't know about that. I don't know if the bonus points will.
It's hard to say if it will work
make
in
up for the extra 4 extra 0.5.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just partly from experience. I think Siva 4.5 keepers have always been the best. The trick is just finding the right 4.5 keeper.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at Raya and assume Onana will be like Raya, but for a better team, because Raya is very good with his feet and did all that stuff for Brentford. But I think the key difference is Brentford do let shots in. In fact, their whole model is to let in low XG shots, shots from distance. Whereas as a United team, your whole thing is just not to allow the other team to have shots. You're probably going to have majority of possession in most of your games. So I'm not sure that it translates so well. And I don't think, let's just look at fixtures for a sec, right? So we have a fixture ticker here from FPL Fraser and Lego Mane, which I thought was pretty cool because it's a fixture ticker that highlights, not bankers, but basically really good fixtures for teams rather than all other fixtures. So you can see United's good fixtures: Game Week 1, Wolves; Game Week 3, Forest; and then Game Week 6, Burnley. So it's not like they've got amazing fixtures to start off. They've got Brighton in there. They've got Arsenal pretty early on. So I'm not sure Onana's, a hype pick. Talk to me about your 4.5 defenders though. Gahey, Botman.
That was a conscious decision to pick cheap defenders. My first draft had 4.5 defenders, and then I caved in and got Chilwell in. That's the debate I'm having, by the way. Is it worth going 4.5 plus Ollie Watkins or Chilwell plus cheaper forward? So that's the debate I'm on right now. Historically, statistically, the league tends to have less clean sheets at the start of the year, and it takes a while for you it takes a while for teams to gel, and then consequently, it takes a while for you as an FPL player to decide, this team is going to be good defensively this year. I'm going to jump on that. And sometimes it's teams that you predict to do well, and sometimes there are surprise packages, right? We've had the Sheffield Uniteds of previous years, Crystal Palace that 1 year, 2 years ago, Vieira's first year.
Yeah, 2 years
Newcastle last year, and then Aston Villa towards the second half of the season. So I think a lot of people approach their Game Week 1 draft with a mindset of like, I need to get everything right now, as though you're not going to make any transfers the entire season. Do you know what I mean?
True.
So I just taking like the lowest risk approach, which is I'm just going to put a whole bunch of 4.5s. And if I need to upgrade, I need more money, I can downgrade one of my midfielders. And then I know I'm making a solid investment in a team that I'm sure of for a long period of the season.
Okay. Let's walk through your defense. And I think we can discuss, defenders in general through the prism of your team, because since you've gone with the cheaper options. So let's rule out Trent. I think both of us, I'm going to assume, we didn't speak about this, but let's assume we're on the same page here. We're not going for Trent because they still haven't signed a replacement for Fabinho or Henderson, and they're leaking goals like there's no tomorrow in preseason.
Yeah, and I don't think Trent's attacking returns will make up for the extremely high price. When's the last time a defender was 8, man?
It's been a while.
Was Leighton Baines 8?
Leighton Baines. But he was on pens.
He was on pens. He was great. He was really expensive. I don't know if he was 8. 8 is just
I
too
think it was
expensive.
7 something, yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel the best strategy is to start as cheap at the back as you can at the start of the season.
Times change, man. I remember 2 years ago coming in with like 5, wing backs, but yeah, times change.
Not me. Unless the wing backs were cheap.
Let's talk about so you've eliminated Trent. Now let's come down a bit. The next popular picks, right? So Trippier, maybe not so much because again, price and fixtures to start aren't great. Yeah, bad fixtures. I guess Botman's different for you because he's just cheap, so you take whatever you can get.
Yeah, but I am really debating that Botman pick just because of the fixtures. Like, if it's cheap and someone else is the same price, 4.5, wouldn't you rather have someone with better fixtures? So I'm still debating that better fixtures versus better team kind of thing.
So working down the price budgets, now let's talk about 5.5s. So I see you've got Chilwell, or you admitted with some hesitation, don't have Reece James and don't have John Stones, don't have Ruben Diaz, don't have any Arsenal defenders. So no Gabriel, no Saliba, who are 5 mil, no Luke Shaw. So talk to me about all of that.
Chilwell's great. I think the way Pot sets up his teams, the fullbacks tend to do very well, right?
Yeah.
Reece James also very good, but always injured, as we've seen. It's only preseason and he already had an injury. So Chilwell it is. And he looks good in preseason games, right? He's getting really good positions. Before Chilwell, it was an Arsenal defender here. I bumped it up to Chilwell because I just feel there's better returns to be had. But like I said, not 100% sold on putting so much money there yet. We'll see. I do think they do have hard fixtures to start, right? So it's kind of an investment actually for game week 3 onwards. You could have someone else there, but I don't really want to book in any transfers at the start of the season. I don't want to go in thinking like, okay, on this game week I'm going to make this transfer because that kind of limits what you can do if you have other emergencies in your team. So it's kind of an investment for future, I guess.
Yeah, and I would challenge you on that. And if you look at the fixture ticker, I would say from game week 2 onwards, it's easy for Chelsea because it's West Ham, Luton, Forest, Bournemouth. And in fact, even in game week 1, right, you saw anybody who watched the Liverpool-Bayern game from yesterday, the amount of space Bayern had on that right flank, okay, against Matip, not Konate, but still, it's worth the punt. Like, you just run with it. And like you say, if you're going to want him anyway, just have him in your team. I wouldn't want to make a transfer down the line.
Yeah. So
no Stones, no City defenders.
No City defenders.
Rotation risk, I guess, is that
rotation risk? They give up goals a bit based on last season, and I guess low chance of attacking returns.
Yeah,
which is what I'm going for. That's what I'm focusing for at the start of the season, right? If teams are conceding more and scoring more, then doesn't it make more sense to get more attackers than defenders, and players who have more attacking potential.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about John Stones. I think the Gvardiol signing actually makes things worse. I think it doesn't help because you're bringing in one of, I think, world-class defender who can play in multiple roles, could even play left back. And I feel like all the more reason Pep's the kind of guy, okay, I can sub off Stones on 59 minutes. We won this game and he's fragile anyway. He's made of glass. It's not to say his attacking threat is increased because he's in midfield, but it's not like he's, box to box or anything. He's just playing as a DM.
Plus, you cannot expect City to play the same way. I don't think they've ever gone 2 seasons playing the same way, Like last season, Stones was a DM. Now everyone's inverting their fullbacks. And next thing you know, Pep's doing a whole totally new thing. That's Pep. So, yeah.
It is impressive, though, that Pep, what is it, 10, 15 years in, is still sort of innovating. I feel like people like Mourinho and the like, Conte especially, have not changed their approach. And I think that's what's so impressive about Pep. I used to wonder, like how is this guy still at the top of his game? But there's a reason for that. Like, he's not just ghosting.
Yeah. Anyway, no City defenders, just such low ceiling, high floor. Maybe if you believe in the stats, their expected clean sheets are the highest, maybe out of all teams.
Yeah, yeah. Can't
But
keep conceding, right? Let's talk about fixtures. Okay, okay. I mean, I'm with you because we hate Edison, right? On this pod, like there is only one rule that we have in place at FPL, and we hate Edison. We don't own Edison. We never go near him. But it's sort of, I did see a tweet that was quite funny that day about how I'm avoiding Edison because he sucks and he always concedes. But that's why I have John Stones, because he's a great defender.
Yeah, I'm applying the same logic. That's why I don't have any City defenders. Now, until they show defensive solidarity, I'm not saying they don't have it. Last year, they were conceding, but the year before that, City always goes through this period where they will keep like 10 clean sheets in a row or some stupid thing like that, Um,
So the fixtures are really good, though.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
come on, every fixture is a good fixture to City, okay? Don't.
no, but especially so, right? You look at the fixture taken out, right? They play
Yeah,
Burnley, Sheffield United,
these are
Forest,
the
Wolves, West
fixtures
Ham.
where they will concede one stupid goal, And it's the hard ones where they win 1-0, 2-0 and stuff like that.
Okay. I'm with you on the low ceiling aspect of it. I feel like it's worth chancing one, but I agree with you. It's not like if I had to remove somebody from my team, I would be probably most comfortable removing the City defender just because I think their ceilings don't feel very high.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your draft. Okay, what other sacrifices did you make? Actually, you've got fair template. I'll come to attack in a second, but let's talk about midfield. You got two 6.5s as opposed to maybe other people. This is why you don't have like a third Arsenal mid or a third Arsenal
But
attacker.
I'm happy with the 6.5. It's part of the reason why I'm okay with having Salah. I know a lot of people don't have Salah and they're spreading the funds in their team. But I feel with the abundance of 6.5 mids this year, like you could make a pretty strong team with 4 6.5 mids, I think. So
Fair.
I'm okay. I'm okay with the sacrifices having Salah. I don't
Okay,
feel it's that big of a downgrade.
but why these 6.5 mids? Okay, so just to recap, you have Rashford, Saka, Eze, Salah, and Bomo. So let's talk about Eze and Bomo. Why Eze and Bomo over, say, Mitoma, Musa Diaby, Pascal Gross, Solimarch, all the rest?
I was very tempted by Diaby. He's playing up front, he's 6.5, but just the whole new league might take time. Yes, he's been doing well, but it's preseason, always got to put that caveat there.
To be
Just the
fair,
risk. Yeah.
I think we can say that there is a track record of promising wingers from Leverkusen joining Villa and completely screwing up our FPL season.
Yeah.
Hashtag Leon Bailey, right?
So, like I said, I want to go in with as low risk as possible. If he flies, you can always switch. It's like I said, it's not like you can't make any transfers this entire season. If he does well, go in. I rather go in 1 week late than going in on a player who just does not return at all.
Is Eze only here because you saw that goal against Sevilla?
No, I've had Eze since the start. He was my first choice 6.5 mid. Finished the season really well. I'm a big personal fan of him. Finished last season really strongly. Carried that on. Got an England cap. I'm backing
On
my
pens.
boy. No Zaha. So yeah, on pens, main man. I like Izzy. I'm going with Izzy. Decent fixtures, I think, to start. Not.
Yeah, let's. Alice's fixtures, yeah. Sheffield United, game week 1. I mean, that's the real sort of why you're going in, right? But then Wolves in game week 4, Forest in game week 8. It's not bad. It's not too bad, and they did finish really strongly.
And I think even the fixtures in between, let me pull it out. So like they have so-called bad fixtures in between, but I think they're still scoreable fixtures. Arsenal, but at home, and Crystal Palace against Arsenal.
Sellers Park, not easy to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Then Brentford away, scoreable. So scoreable fixtures, which is what you want from Eze.
And I guess if
basically
Palace,
the focal point of the attack, right?
Yeah, if Palace are going to score, it's going to be Eze. Fair enough. And
I think he takes every set piece too. I think.
With Michael Olise out, and actually that we didn't discuss. So Michael Olise is out. Typically they would have shared set pieces, but now he'd probably get the lion's share of them. They haven't signed anybody to replace Olise for the short term, or even to replace Zaha. To be fair,
yeah.
Okay, I'm down with Eze. Let's talk about Brian and Bomo. Are you concerned that no Tony means there'll be problems? No Raya means there'll be other issues in build up.
Raya, maybe. No Tony, I think they've shown last season. Of course, small sample size, blah, blah, blah. But they seem to be able to still score, at least, and do fairly well. And Bremo's going to be on pens. We know that kind of for sure, right? I think it's just an opportunity to have an out of position player for cheap, for a team that's reasonably attacking. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. Like I said, you have transfers. You can use them, and move him out to whoever it is that you want to. But I'm fairly happy to start the year with Mbeumo.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room before we get to your forward. Not a single Brighton player in your team, Sam. No Estupinan, no Mitoma, no Steele, no March, no Evan Ferguson, no João Pedro, nobody. They play Luton, Wolves, and West Ham game week 1 and 3. So are you
Yeah.
going to be living under your sofa for the first 3 weeks?
Pretty much, I think. I'm not so worried about the defenders, mostly. I think Estupinan I like him, he's a good player. But then beyond those 3 weeks, their fixtures really turn. And I don't want to book in a transfer to have to transfer him out. Now, if he was 4.5, I'll just leave him on the bench in the best fixtures. Because he's 5, typically when I pay 5 million for a defender, I would play them every single game, and I don't really have that confidence for Estupinan. Still, they signed a keeper. There's that uncertainty there whether he'll still be the
Verbruggen,
starting
yeah, they've
keeper.
signed.
Yeah,
But he's
and
really young. Like
he's a
he's
good
20.
keeper, and they spent a
Not
lot on him.
I mean, they spent a fair bit on him. I've looked into his stats, right? Okay, I'm not gonna pretend. None of us knew Verbruggen before he was signed for Brighton.
I knew Verbruggen.
You play FM, so that's
Yeah,
why.
okay.
But to be fair to, so it's hard for me to see Verbruggen come in straight because in preseason he's looked a little shaky. Steele has played more minutes, and also Verbruggen's really young. He hasn't played that many minutes in professional football, just full stop. Although I will sort of qualify that by saying Jason Steele, when De Zerbi arrived, was a Championship / League One keeper who everybody thought was finished. And like you see Sunderland fans watching him now and say, like, who is this guy and how did he become this guy? So you could never say with De Zerbi, to be fair.
Yeah, I would think like when he came in, he just felt Sanchez is not his type of keeper, and the best
He really doesn't.
alternative he had was Steele. Now he has a proper summer. He made his choice. I want this keeper in as my keeper. Now he might not start straight away. I concede that, but at any point in the season, Steele could become a Verbruggen, and then you have to make a goalkeeper transfer, which I don't want to. So that's part of the reason why.
So that's the defense. Well, talk to me about no Kara Mitoma, mate. Like, how dare you?
So the Brighton meets. I'm actually looking at much more than Mitoma, but I don't know if I'm just trying to be too different. I've never had Mitoma in any of my drafts, but I had much in.
You'll be pleased to hear that again. I did, I sort of moonlight amongst the statistical nerds, and I do see that they have March has better underlying numbers and better predicted points than Mitoma.
Yeah.
I think that's also partially because greater history, right? March has been around for longer. Mitoma's
That's true, but
1 season.
Even if you make it just since De Zerbi arrives, I think March still overperforms or outperforms. Sorry, Mitoma.
I feel like Mitoma's more nailed though.
Yeah, I concede that. Although, but you can't really use those instances of rotation last year because that was when they had like games every 3 days or something. So he had no choice, right?
And Brighton don't start Europa until game week 5, just for those who don't know.
Correct. Yeah. I would put a Brighton meet as my third choice, 6.5. Just on a personal preference. But yeah, I think I would be happy to start March, maybe. Or Mitoma, I guess. One of the Brighton meets.
I will concede to you, and like you said, right, you could make a pretty good team of 4 6.5 mids, which is why we're talking about them. But I guess the issue with the Brighton mids is, unlike Bomo and Eze, those are talisman, guaranteed, nailed 90-minute man each week, whereas Brighton mids are all, even at the best day, a bit more.
Exactly. That is exactly my point. They are both talismans. Eze especially Mbeumo, because Tony is not there, he has stepped up as a talisman. That's one of the big reasons why I went for them. Talismans.
And to be fair, and we sort of glossed over this chart from Rob TFPL, but predicted goals, Brian Mboma is really high. Like he's predicted to be around the same as Odegaard for the season, which makes sense because he's on pens and Tony isn't back till January, and Eze is slightly behind. Mitoma is some way back, so you might be onto something here, Sam. Even if you're not, subscribing to all these predictions, you may just be onto something. Let's talk about the forward line. Okay, so we have Havertz. I'm sorry, we have Haaland. We all have Haaland, so we'll skip Haaland. And both you and I have. I haven't shown my team, but both you and I have two forwards. And our second forward can spoil for everybody now, is Julian Alvarez, who is
did you
expected.
pick Alvarez as well?
I did. We didn't see my team, so let's
we
look at my
haven't gone
team.
to your team.
Okay, so we can, since we've discussed all the positions, I think we can sort of skip, the basis of the discussion. But basically, my team is Steele. I have maybe more confidence than you, but you're trying to scare me. I have Jason Steele, Estupinan. I have Estupinan, Gabriel, John.
Why there's stones in your team? I thought, didn't
Wait,
you just say that you don't want any City defenders? Or did I change your mind as I was talking?
You may have changed my mind as we were talking, but I'll come back to it. Right, we have Steele, Estupinan, Gabriel, Stones, Mitoma, Havertz, Saka, Bruno, Rashford, Julian Alvarez, and Haaland with Chilwell first bench, and for the rest of the bench. Okay, I'll address
no
Stones.
Liverpool at all.
No Liverpool. I don't respect Liverpool.
We'll get there. Go through your Stones and your defense.
No, I think we can deal with Stones and Alvarez in one go because, see, I have Stones for the same reasons I think you have Alvarez, and that's, we come back to it again, fixtures, right? They play Burnley, Sheffield United, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, and Wolves in the first 7. Unless Pep is in really bad mood, I have to feel like they get at least 4 clean sheets here. I appreciate what happened last season, but I feel like times are different. And if they sign Gvardiol, okay, more rotation risk, but also a much better defender coming into the team, and you would expect them to keep more cleans. I just think this time, and the fixtures, I feel like they're so bad. I mean, not so bad. They're so good. Like Burnley and Sheffield United haven't really convinced me the kind of signings they've made. In fact, Sheffield United sold Iliman Ndiaye, who, for those who watch some championship football, he's like their main man. They've sold him. So big goal threat gone. Burnley lost Ashley Barnes and haven't really replaced him. West Ham haven't signed anyone. Forest, surprisingly, maybe all the signings from last season haven't really done much business this season. And Wolves still haven't signed anybody. So I feel like you've got teams that, logically speaking, step back, don't bring in past experience, don't bring in all your sort of, your anger towards City last season. Logic says they should be keeping clean sheets in these games. And why do we have Alvarez? I mean, my reason, I'm not sure yours, but with Jesus out and Kunku probably a doubt, your choices for forwards are Watkins, Alvarez, Wilson, Isak, Evan Ferguson, João Pedro. Everybody's got issues here. Only Watkins is nailed. But game week 1 against Newcastle doesn't feel exciting. Like, I want something sexy in the first week. And I feel like Alvarez, Burnley, he's played a lot of minutes in preseason. If he was ever going to haul, I think you can get a haul in game week 1. KDB hasn't played a single minute of preseason, and Alvarez can play that position. So I feel like you take a shot.
Yeah. I will confess that I did not even look at City's fixture list. Because to me, doesn't matter who they're playing with against, who they're going to play against. Every fixture is a good fixture for them. But I went for Alvarez, kind of similar reasons here. I just wanted 2 City attackers, regardless of fixtures. I know I want 2. Alvarez minutes risk, I concede that. But like I said, if your whole team is really safe, you can afford to take 1 or 2 risks. Alvarez is one of it. High ceiling, which I like. If you're going to take a risk, they better have a high ceiling, So yeah, Alvarez. Although I will say, I'm thinking very strongly to move, but there is not many options. There just isn't any options. I wish I could have 6 midfielders because there's so many 6.5 midfielders, right? But yeah. So Alvarez it is. I am closely looking at Isak and because Watkins is really high. Isak's a bit cheaper, 7.5. I think he's really overlooked, actually. Yes, Newcastle don't have really good fixtures, but Newcastle are a strong team. They're one of the best 6 teams in the country, depending on how Spurs and Chelsea get on this year. But yeah, so I think a lot of people are overlooking Isak. I know there's maybe some recency bias because of how well Wilson did end of last year, but we all know Eddie Howe's long-term plan is to have Isak as the main striker. That is his goal, right?
Yeah.
Wilson, I felt it's kind of a surprise to him, but he started playing so well, he had no choice. He had to start playing Wilson. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But these kind of things tend to reset in the summer, where he's brought in more left wingers. So I think, Wilson and Isak was playing on the left wing. He's brought in Gordon. He's brought in Harvey Barnes.
Yeah.
So Isak might go back to the middle. Does that mean more competition? Wilson, well, there's also more. They're playing Europe this year, so we shall see. But yeah, I just think he's really overlooked. No one's talking about Isak at all.
I think it's he's got fixtures plus doubt. Like we're talking about Alvarez because he's got fixtures, whereas Isak that has bad fixtures and also you're worried about minutes. So it sort of adds up. Although that chart I showed earlier about projected goals, Isak is third. So like, I
think
mean,
people forgot how good he was. There was a point last season where everyone wanted Isak in. But people forget because Wilson did extremely, unbelievably well, right? In terms of goals per minute. Like he would come in 20 minutes and score 3 goals or something like that. Yeah, so Isak, I'm really, really considering moving Alvarez up to Isak.
Okay, so we've spoken a bit about the other forward options, and I think we're both on Alvarez for similar reasons. We want a ticket to the Man City attack, and everybody owns Haaland, so we want to just have another guy. Why did neither of us go for Foden?
Oh, I had Foden. It's more options, I think. Not many options in forwards, a lot of options in the mid. If I had to rank them individually, I would say Foden is probably the second best City player you could have in your team, next to Haaland. But it's just the options, right?
There are a lot more nailed, explosive midfielders, some of them on pens, as opposed to Foden, whereas there is probably almost no forwards that we really want apart from Haaland right now.
Correct. Exactly. If I were to move one of my 6.5 mids to a Foden, I would have to downgrade Alvarez, and there's no one. There is no one under below 6.5 that's really viable.
Can I sell you on, since you're talking about upgrading to Isak, what about somebody like, neither the Brighton forwards, I guess, for you, you're scared about minutes, so you're not going to chance Pedro.
I wish Ferguson was nailed because I really, really rate him. I think he's a great player. But the fact that they signed Pedro for a club record,
30 mil.
Yeah. And then, Welbeck is still there. So
still getting minutes in preseason, mate. Like how has Welbeck chosen this time to stay fit? He didn't stay fit at United, didn't stay fit at Arsenal, and now 30 plus. Now I'm actually fit.
And I think even Ferguson himself said that there will be a lot of rotation. He's expecting a lot of rotation between the strikers. So just a no-go for me right now, at least. Maybe next year. Yeah.
So annoying because like if Ferguson was nailed to start, like I was so happy to have him my first round, but preseason he's just been rotated too much.
Yeah.
And João Pedro, you'd have similar worries, although they have sold Undav, so that helps a bit.
But... yeah, that just turns from 4 strikers into 3 for one spot.
Yeah. Ceilings don't feel very high here. Finishing up, why haven't you considered Nicholas Jackson?
Don't say DCL. Oh, okay.
Okay, let's deal with that now. Nobody is ever saying DCL on this pod, okay?
He might surprise us because 3 years ago, I don't know how long has it been since he was a good option, and people have nostalgia in their minds. Like, oh, I remember that one season when DCL was 5.5 and he was killing it in FPL.
Yeah, and then he snapped both his hamstrings and we haven't seen him since. I'm not going anywhere near DCL. He's going to get injured before you even have a chance to get to the good fixtures, so no. And he plays for like a Daesh team. Like, we will never take a Daesh striker, right? We know this.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Have we ever?
No, you probably had Ashley Barnes for like one good week and then you never went back again. Like, you would not pick...
I had Chris Wood a few years back, who did really well. Anyway, nostalgia.
Nostalgia, mate. Nostalgia. Yeah. Nicholas Jackson. Talk to me about Nicholas Jackson. 7 mil.
It's not nil.
Good fixtures. They haven't signed Vlahovic yet.
Yeah, but very strong links that they will. And if Vlahovic comes, the thing is, the window closes like what, 2 games in? if they sign Varouche like after Game Week 1, you there's a transfer wasted.
Okay, I just want to wrap up. I think on a couple more sort of options who I know are popular, but maybe not make your team. You don't seem to have considered Darwin. I presume minutes again.
Darwin, Gakpo,
Jota.
Diaz, Jota. 4 players in 2 slots. Now Diaz kind of stuck on the left wing. Jota also, but can play in the middle if needed. Gakpo can kind of play across all 3, and AM Darwin also has played on the left wing, if I'm not mistaken. A season when Gakpo was started playing in the middle. So basically, it's no one knows who's going to start. If anyone tells you they know, they're lying, because no one knows. I don't think Klopp has even really settled on who yet. I think almost every single preseason game he's changing them out. The only constant is Salah. I'm happy to just have Salah in my team for Liverpool attack. I'm good. The problem is, even if one of them is nil, or so-called nil, for a few games, all it takes is one bad game and then you're out. Gakpo comes in. 2 bad games maybe. The option is there, and the drop-off in quality is not that bad. So yeah, it's just too much risk for me to start the season with. And I don't know, even as the season goes on, unless one of them gets an injury or something like that, which makes the other option nailed, I don't see myself moving on them.
Okay, I think final 2 options, because actually having this fixture ticket, you should go check it out. FPL Fraser and Lego Mane's, it's so useful when I look at it now, because it's giving me these ideas.
Actually, speaking of fixtures, if I may say, I have a Villa defender and a Palace defender because they rotate really well. So if you're going to do the 4.5 defender rotation, which I don't mind, honestly, 4.5 defenders, I would do it. I am doing it. And I've done it.
Who are you and what have you done with Sam? Like,
I do 4.5 defender rotations every year, but only in the defenders. I don't do it with my keepers. I don't do it with any other players. Just the defenders. Yeah, they rotate well.
Okay.
I really like Pau Torres. I'm high chance I might change Cash to Torres.
You feel nailed with Torres? I'm surprised actually you didn't discuss it, but you have Matty Cash. Like, I don't think he's nailed.
I think Torres is nailed because he's an Emery signing. Came in really early in preseason, so has had pretty much a full preseason with them. I don't see how Emery would spend so much to bring him in, convince him of the whole project, just not to play him every week. So yeah, I think he's nailed.
I'm with you. I don't like.
I was gonna say he's been playing even like left back and stuff.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Emery's doing everything he can to make sure Torres fits in the team.
I think what Emery's doing, because I think Alex Moreno has an injury. Emery, from my limited experience of seeing Villa, it seems to be playing the sort of thing where he has 3 guys who are more stay back, and then one, so typically Alex Moreno on the left tends to go advance. So Moreno was injured, so he's playing Cash at the right, goes advance, and then you have Torres, Diego Carlos, and Tyrone Mings. The issue is Tyrone Mings is Konsa. So Konsa played right back in one of the preseason games. This is why I don't want to touch any of them. It's just so confusing. Both Pau Torres and Tyrone Mings are left-footed centre-backs, so therefore I'm a little nervous. But I'm with you. It doesn't make sense to spend, and Villa aren't the club with that much money, again, to make those kind of signings, although they have Philippe Coutinho, so they change their mind quickly. But this is the manager's pick, right? So I'm with you. It broadly makes sense. And again, he's a 4.5 bench defender. Like, if it doesn't work out, you just buy somebody else. I don't think it's a massive deal. I just want to wrap up with one last thing, Sam, before you probably have something for me, which is if Kane goes before Game Week 1, it feels like that move is starting to sort of materialize. If he goes before Game Week 1, does Richarlison make your Game Week 1 team?
Yes. Yes. Out of position player. Yes.
7 mil midfielder playing up top.
I would probably sacrifice Mbeumo for Richarlison. I think. Yeah. Both of them are out of position. OOP players, midfield playing as forwards, potential strikers, potential focus point of the attack. Yeah, I would.
I think you're the first person who seems positive about this, because when I first said this like 3 weeks ago, everyone said you're crazy. Why would you want Richarlison?
Oh, it's because they've only, people have short memories and they only remember the Spurs Richarlison. But think back, Richarlison was really good in Everton in FPL and Watford before that.
You don't have to look so far back, mate. World Cup Richarlison, Brazil Richarlison, that man scoring overhead kicks like for fun. I mean, he's got something in there. He just needs to be played in the correct position.
Correct. Yeah, in the correct system, correct position. I would
Yeah,
100%. And actually, I was really loyal to Richarlison before he moved. To my detriment sometimes, but it's because he did really well for me back when he was in Watford. And then I think his first season at Everton, he was good, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
Second one had some injuries and stuff like that. Yeah, but yeah, all the OGs remember. It's not even that long back, but OGs remember Richarlison is a good fantasy asset.
And lastly, you're not if Rasmus Højlund, so United fan, right? If he comes in, it looks like that transfer's almost done. Game week 1, you're not going to take a gamble on him if he comes in, say 7 mil.
Too early. Too early to move on him because he arrived too late in preseason. For me, I think it takes time to gel with the team and stuff like that. 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, right? Is if he does move today, like
Yeah,
officially
less than two
comes in.
weeks.
Yeah, so just not enough time. I wouldn't take a risk on it this early. Like I said, I don't mind him. If he really does start game week 1, starts game week 2, scores in both, then I'll definitely move on him. As a United fan, you can't resist the urge to get United players who are on form. But I'll wait till he's on form first before I move.
Okay, speaking about United, I just want to one last thing for you. You don't have Bruno. I have Bruno and Rashford. So why is that? I mean, you support United, and everybody says you got to have Bruno.
I had
So
Bruno
what-
for maybe every single draft up until last week.
Doesn't count, mate. The only draft that counts is the team you lock in. So why isn't he in your team?
I just thought about it a lot, and Rashford, I feel, will still be the main goal scorer of the team, right? The team is built around allowing Rashford to score, and especially more if Højlund comes, because the reason why we bring him in is because of his link-up play, blah, 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 so that Rashford can cut in and score. So the whole team is built among it, and I do agree that Bruno will be a good asset. I'm happy that you can, if I didn't have Salah, I would definitely have Bruno, I think.
Yeah.
But I think Salah's a better asset than Bruno.
I mean, that's not controversial. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, you want a goal scorer rather than the assister, right? I think Bruno will get lots of assists. May he get into good positions to score? I'm not so sure about that because Mount has been arriving late into the box a lot in preseason. Bruno has been supplying pass, but there was a period last year where Bruno started to kind of play. He actually was playing alongside Casemiro, kind of as a deep lying playmaker, quarterback kind of role, and he did really, really well with it. Does this mean he might hang back a bit more to allow Mount to make those late runs into the box, kind of oversee it from further back? I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, I still think he's a good player to get. I just feel for 0.5, it's still worth it to get Rashford. A lot of people are talking about his overperformance last year, but historically, and it's because the year before that it was terrible. But in the years before that, I think 3 years in a row, he hit double digits for goals. Really, really good goals per minute stats and stuff like that. Stats are good. Overperformance does not mean that it's unsustainable. It could mean that, his finishing is improving and his scoring better.
Yeah, I wouldn't go against Rashford. I just think Wolves and Forest in the first 3, like you don't want to. He could conceivably score braces in both those games. It just feels like a risky bet to take against. But yeah.
So yeah, okay. That's why I have Rashford over Bruno. And if you want to get both, yeah, go for it, man.
Okay, interesting. I think that's all for me, Sam. Is there anything else you feel like you wanted to discuss that we didn't cover?
Other 4.5 options that you can consider for those of you who are still making your drafts. If you don't want to pay so much money for Chelsea defender Levi Colwill, sign a long-term contract. I think he's nailed to start the season at least until
Badiashile and Disasi and all that.
Badiashile is their other left-sided centre back. But they gave him a long-term contract, and the word is that he would not have signed if he wasn't guaranteed that he would be a starter.
Yeah,
or
and
at least in plans.
For what it is worth, I did watch Chelsea's preseason friendly, which was like last night, and Colwill played. He was amazing. I think you can be assured that he starts. And Tifo did a video about his passing and all that. Yeah, he's good.
Mm-hmm.
He's,
So yeah, Colville will be a good 4.5. Another player you can look at is Destiny Udogi.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Destiny Udogi,
4.5.
Spurs, 4.5.
Spurs,
Yeah.
very attacking wingback. The only thing is I'm not sure I want to start the season with them with so many changes in the side. Actually, it's one of the reasons why I don't have a Brighton defender. Possibly no Caicedo, most likely no Caicedo. No Levi Colwill, who was a rock in their defense last year. I actually think their clean sheets will suffer.
Yeah, Dunk is having some injury issues as well. You may be
Yeah.
on to something there. Maybe I have to
And as
reconsider my
good
double
as
defense.
Estupidant is attacking wise, I don't know if that will compensate for the lack in clean sheets and the extra 0.5 that you have to pay for Estupidant.
Yeah, you may be on to something with that. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Other 4.5s, let me think. I think that's
Rico
about it.
Henry, I guess.
Yeah, so I have a
Not
Brighton keeper. I mean, a Brentford keeper. That's why I don't have anyone. But if not, Rico Henry or Pinnock. Pinnock has been really solid and dependable, actually.
I don't think he's nailed though. I mean, they signed Nathan
Don't think
Collins
so?
from Wolves, so they have another centre back there. And I mean,
I don't see them changing anytime soon, at least.
I feel like that's a slight risk. Although, yeah, like you say, Pinnock seemed to do really well in terms of goals last season, like surprisingly so.
Every year, apparently. I confess I didn't know much about them before they came up, but apparently he's been doing it every year. That's like his thing. So yeah, any other players that we are not talking about?
We didn't talk about Johan Wissa. I mean, since we're on Brentford, but I mean, I feel like Mbomo's clear, and we know Mbomo's on pens now because we already knew that, but just for safety, he took one in the preseason friendly. So
Yeah, and I don't think Wisa is as nailed as people think he is because they have another
Kevin Schade.
forward.
They have
Yes,
Kevin Schade,
who-
but they tend to play them, I guess, together. But they could play
But you
two
see,
as
you
well.
have to put this kind of caveats because last year was his first year in the Premier League. So sometimes they make concessions. There's Tony and stuff like that. So they're not going to bench Tony for him. But now that there's no Tony, this might be the time. And he has played as a forward. I think there has been preseason games where Wisa did not start and Kevin Schade.
Kevin Schade, you just got to see.
Schade?
You can make
Shade.
mistakes in the pronunciation, but you got to
Shade.
you got to be confident. Like that's
pretend
all
like
you
you
have to do.
know. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think not as nailed as people think he really is.
Yeah. To wrap up on Brentford, since you have Flecken, and I'm not going near Flecken because he's looked very questionable in preseason. I looked.
They're not going to drop him. That's for sure. Because Raya's leaving, they're not going to drop him. So at least his place secured.
They've got Strakosha, who they signed from Roma last year.
Yeah, but apparently Flecken was a really good keeper for Freiburg last year. Really, really good stats in terms of goals prevented.
I mean, Dutch fourth choice keeper, so But again, Koeman's the coach of Netherlands, so okay, so a lot of sort of caveats. One thing I will say about Flecken, just to finish off, okay, for those who haven't seen this, right? About 2 years ago, Flecken was playing for Freiburg and he conceded this goal. I think he was not playing for Freiburg before he joined them. He conceded this goal where he was drinking water and he wasn't prepped, and suddenly the counter attack comes and he concedes because he's like still standing in the goal drinking. If you do nothing else, you should go search that just for your own sort of amusement.
I hope Thomas Frank works out like the appropriate time to drink water.
Yeah.
Other than that,
like
I don't know.
Jens Lehmann, proper time to go to the toilet.
Other than that, I think we've covered everyone. Gabriel is better than Saliba. Go for Gabriel if you're looking for an Arsenal defender. That's
better
for sure.
XG.
Better
That's why he's in my draft. Yeah, better XG. I'm telling you, mate, you're gonna cry when we just farm clean sheets and win the league this year.
Shaw, why don't I have Shaw? Just too expensive. 5.5, too expensive. Basically.
And interestingly, Shaw seemed to be a better option at centre back once he started, stat padding his bonus.
And Shaw's points really came from bonus. Last year he was a bonus monster. Assists, here and there, but I think his attacking potential is overblown.
It's funny, right? Because Shaw scored that goal in the Euro final, so I always think of him as this marauding left back, but he's not actually that productive.
But he was sucking up bonus points last year.
Yeah.
Plus the clean sheets, so that's good. So I'm approaching my whole defense with the idea that no one is keeping a clean sheet. So therefore, where's the points coming from? Attacking potential, or just being cheap enough that you don't really care. That's how I'm approaching it. So looking at Shaw, if he's not keeping clean sheets, I don't want him. You know.
Fair. I don't think United's fixtures are the easiest to start off with anyway. So
Yeah.
harder to justify compared to the Chelsea guys. I think that's it. I think we covered everybody we want to talk about, and we'll do another show before Game Week 1. So because I'm sure after the Community Shield, we'll have 1,001 different opinions. Or based on 90 minutes of football, as you do, which is a bad idea, but that's what we do.
Like if Haaland doesn't score in the Community Shield, we're all going to take him off our teams, just like last year, right?
There were some people who did, man. Oh, that was so beautiful. I mean, that's the real test.
I went Game Week 1 without Haaland because of the Community Shield.
Thoughts with you, man.
And I mean, I captained Salah. He got 11 points. So
not too bad. We'll see how that works out this season. Let's see if you hold on to Salah captain until Game Week 1. I think that's the real question now.
That's true. I will. There's no doubt about it, Siva. No doubt at all. Salah will be my Game Week 1 captain. I'm putting it out now. That won't change even next week. Unless he gets injured, highly unlikely. Salah is my Game Week 1 captain. Spoilers for next episode.
You heard it here. All right. So in the meantime, Sam, I guess there are no, what we normally say doesn't really apply here, right?
Everyone's getting. What do you get in the first? It's not red. It's not green. It's a gray arrow.
It's gray, mate. But in the meantime, as you can see from our beautiful photos here, go join the mini league. Codes at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And we will
join our mini league. We don't give any prizes. It's all for fun.
We endeavor to give a prize at some point. That's what we're working on it. Although we will get, so some of the people who did really well last year, we will get them on pods later in the season. That's much we have committed to. We will make that happen. But in the meantime,
enjoy making those 1 million drafts before Game Week 1, guys. And we'll see you next episode.
Yeah, and anybody who tells you, don't make too many drafts, you'll get tired, you get stressed out. Don't listen to them. Those people don't know what FPL is about. It's about making drafts, making 1,001 drafts, and then in Game Week 1, when somebody scores, you can say, hey, they were in my draft. Don't need to say how many drafts you had.
I mean, I make drafts like all the time. When I'm in the toilet, let me just tinker with my team a bit.
Yeah. So I take really long showers, and the wife's like, what are you doing? I'm just making drafts.
And I don't even save it most of the time. Like, I don't even click save. I just do it like to see what I can, play around with the money. Like, okay, this looks nice. And then just close the page without saving.
If your gallery in your phone isn't filled with screenshots of drafts from FPL, I feel like you're failing at life.
I won't go that far. I don't have any screenshots. I had to take one just to send you this, but I mean, it's part of parcel of being an FPL player. Make drafts. That's fine. Yeah, don't have to post every single draft you make online. That's okay. Just enjoy life. Enjoy FPL. Make FPL fun again.
Okay. So on that note, we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys. We'll see you.